Today in this session, we will start with the introduction of Java programming language. Then we will understand the history of Java programming language, and we will move on to discuss the features of Java language. I know you already know the features of Java, but how questions will be asked from interview point of view, what terminology you have to use while responding in interview room, that I want to tell you. So I have included this as part of today's session. And later we will discuss the comparison between C++ and Java. That is also very important from interview point of view. What is the difference between C++ and Java programming language? Okay, so this is the outline of today's session. And in part 2 of the session, we will understand the JVM architecture. We will see how to install Eclipse on the system, and we will see Java development process, how to write a basic program, how to execute it. Okay, shall we start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, what is Java? Java is a high-level programming language and a platform. It's a high-level, robust, secure, and object-oriented programming language. So these are some of the buzzwords that are always associated with the Java language. That Java is a high-level language, it is a robust language, it is very secure language to work with, and also we get to hear that it is object-oriented programming language. Do we really understand these buzzwords? That we will discuss in the features of Java programming. So what is a platform? A platform is any hardware or software environment in which the program runs. So Java has its own runtime environment, which we call as JRE. That's why Java is a platform. Now, what is the history of Java? When was it introduced? See, any programming language cannot be developed like a magic. It's not a magic wand that on this day, in this year, Java came into picture. It doesn't works like that. What happens is it takes some time, years to design and develop any programming language. So Java programming was introduced in early 90s. Okay. So 91, 92, 93, 94, all these years, Java was introduced and officially it was released in the year 1995. It was originally developed by Sun Microsystems company, which has been acquired by Oracle Corporation now. And it was initiated by whom? It was initiated by James Gosling. Okay. So initially we were having a programming language called B language. Have you ever heard of B language? Okay. So we have a language called BCPL. Please note down in your notebook that initially BCPL, Basic Combined Programming Language. Note down BCPL, Basic Combined Programming Language was introduced and it was popular with the name B language. Okay, so everyone started working with B language. Later, some drawbacks were there in the B language and we tried to overcome those drawbacks, and later C language was introduced. So C language was introduced followed by B language. Then C was a procedural language. B language was also procedural language. Later after C language, we moved forward with C++ language, which we considered as object oriented. Later, it was realized that internet is becoming very popular. Okay, it was realized that internet is becoming very popular. Now, if all the systems are connected through internet on www, then we will be having lots of systems having different types of architecture, having different types of operating systems running on them. Is it true or not?
Yes, ma'am.
If we are connected to internet, that means lots of systems are connected with each other, and all the systems are coming from different backgrounds. They have different architecture, they have different operating systems running upon them. So people started looking for options that will be architecture neutral. We started looking for options that is platform independent, so that we can happily connect to internet and we can work. That is the reason why Java came into picture, because Java programming is considered as platform independent. So even if because of internet, lots of systems are connected with each other, and every system is coming from different background. Some are having Windows installed on them, some are having Unix installed on them, some are having Mac installed on them, some are having Linux installed on them. Then even if they have different computer architecture, we should be having a single program which can run on each of those platforms. Is it a smart idea or not?
Yes.
Yes,
See,
ma'am.
this is a very good idea, that let's look for an option where we can write a program in such a way that it becomes platform independent. So if it is platform independent, we will write the program once and we will run it everywhere on every platform. So internet will be having heterogeneous environment, and my single program can run on each of the systems. That idea led to the invention of Java language. Okay, so Java language was introduced keeping in mind that with the popularity of internet, we should have a program which is platform independent. The number one feature of Java is it is platform independent. It follows WORA principle, WORA. Please note down, what is WORA principle? Can anybody tell me?
Write anywhere. Run.
WORA.
Once,
WORA.
write once, run anywhere.
Yes, we have to write the program once, but we can run it anywhere. Now, James Gosling was working in his cabin, and there was a beautiful oak tree outside his cabin. So, when this idea came into his mind, he kept the name of the language as Oak language. OAK, Oak language. Okay, so because of that tree which was visible from his window while working, he named that language as Oak language. Later, what happened when this wonderful feature was realized that we can have a language with platform independent nature. We have to write it once and we can run it everywhere. Okay, so what happened? Do you know? We make tea and we make coffee. Now, if you make tea, after some time, if you heat the tea, the taste of the tea will change. After some time, again, if you heat the tea, the taste of the tea will become bitter, and it is dangerous to health also. Do you know that?
Yes.
On the other hand, if you have coffee, what happens? You prepare the coffee, after some time, you heat the coffee. The taste of the coffee is not going to change. After some time, you heat the coffee again. The taste of the coffee will be same. It is not going to change. Have you observed this thing?
Yes.
That is the
Yes,
reason
ma'am.
why James Gosling thought of keeping this language name based on a variety of coffee. and Java is a variety of coffee. Okay, because it follows Vora principle. You write the program once, you execute it many times anywhere on any platform. It is not going to change the output, just like the behavior of the coffee. That is the reason why he named the programming language after a coffee. So Java is a variety of coffee actually. And the programming language has been given this name because of its nature of not changing, because of its nature of being architecture neutral, of being platform independent, of being portable. Clear till this point?
Yes, ma'am.
History of Java is clear to everyone? So Java programming language was developed by Sun Microsystems. It was initiated by James Gosling. It was released in the year 1995. And we have some wonderful features of Java which we are going to discuss. Now, is the slide visible to all of you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, count and tell me how many features are there.
12.
12 features of Java programming language. Okay, so these are 12 wonderful features of Java programming language, and also not just the features, they are buzzwords. Why I am calling it buzzwords? Because whenever you appear in the interview, while answering, if you include these buzzwords in your answer, you will definitely make a different position in the heart of the interviewer. He will definitely categorize you in a different category compared to 10 other candidates. So just whatever I am going to speak, try to note down in your own language in your notes. Okay, there is nothing in the slide. I have not kept any kind of paragraphs in the slides. Only the buzzwords are there. One by one, we will discuss all the 12 features, which you already know. You already know these features, but I will try to explain it in a different manner. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So the first feature is simple. Java programming language is very simple. So why it is very simple? Because Java programming language is a high level language. Whenever a high level language is introduced in the market, it has to be user friendly. Then only it will attract the attention of the users. If it is not user friendly, just like assembly language and COBOL and Fortran, if it is something like that, who is going to use it? No one is going to use it. It has to be a simple user friendly language so that any person who is not having any programming background can also use it. Okay, like I am there, live example in front of you. I don't know C language. Okay, when I entered 11th standard, we were started teaching C++. Okay, I was in KV and they started teaching with C++. No one taught us C language. In college also, no one taught us C and C++. So some students who are not from CSC and IT branch, who are afraid of programming, they don't have to worry. You don't have to know C language, C++ language, nothing. You can start with Java as well. So Java is such a simple language that anyone can learn. That is the number one feature of Java. It is very simple. You can easily write the source code, you can happily compile it, and you can happily execute it. Second feature of Java is platform independent. Okay. So platform independent feature means you have to write the Java program once and it will run anywhere. It follows Vora principle. So with Vora principle, if you have written a Java program on a physical machine that is having Windows installed on it, and later you are trying to execute the same program on Linux or Unix or Mac, it is not going to create any problem. Why? Why is it so? Because when you write a Java program and when you compile it, it creates a bytecode. It creates a bytecode with the extension dot class. So that dot class file can be carried anywhere and it can be executed anywhere. Okay? That is the reason why Java is called platform independent. We will write one Java program, we will compile it, we will get one bytecode, which is called as the class file, and we can execute that class file on any system that is having Java virtual machine. So basically, you see, nothing is happening on the actual machine. I have this system. I have installed Windows 10 on this system. This is my physical machine. But I have installed JDK, Java Development Kit. Now that JDK allows me to execute everything on a virtual machine. Okay? So actually, everything is getting executed on the virtual machine. Nothing is happening on the actual machine, the physical machine. So because of this, we can carry that bytecode anywhere and we can run the program anywhere where we have virtual machine. We don't have to bother about the actual machine at all. So Java programming is a platform independent language because it follows VORA principle and the Java virtual machine presence can execute the class files. The class file is obtained by compiling the Java source code. Is it clear to all of you?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
So-
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So very important question from the interview room. Why Java is considered as platform independent? So how you have to answer? Java is considered as platform independent because it follows VORA principle. That means write once, run anywhere. Please keep noting down in your notebook. In Java programming language, we write a source code, we save it with .java extension, and when we compile it, we get one bytecode file called as .class file with the extension .class. Now this class file can be executed anywhere, wherever Java virtual machine is present. That is the reason why Java is a platform independent language. So if you answer in such a way, will he reject you?
No, ma'am.
No,
ma'am.
If you answer in front of interviewer in the simplest possible way, then no one is going to reject you. Okay, you have to be very simple. Next, Java is architecture neutral. Okay, I'm not going in order. I'm speaking in whatever point is coming in my mind. So, but we will definitely cover all the 12 features. So number 3 feature is architecture neutral. So what is architecture neutral? That means if I bring any change in the computer architecture, at present, my system is having 4 GB RAM. I want to expand it. I'll take 8 GB RAM. My system is having 1 TB hard disk. I'll take 2 TB hard disk. My system is having i3 processor. I will change my processor to i7. If I bring in some changes in my computer architecture, I am bringing some changes in my computer architecture. Is it going to affect the Java program that I am writing and executing? It is not going to affect the Java program. Okay, so even if I expand my memory size, I change my processor, whatever I do at the hardware level of the system, it is not going to affect the Java program that I have written, and it is not going to weigh it is not going to change the way it is going to execute the Java program, because Java programming language is architecture neutral. Same program can run on your old system, same program can run on your new system. Only requirement is JVM should be there. Java virtual machine should be there. What is Java virtual machine? We will discuss later in the session. Okay. So why Java is architecture neutral? Because whatever changes we perform in the computer architecture, by bringing some changes in the memory size, processor, screen size, whatever, the same program can run on the old system as well as on the new system. That is the reason why Java is architecture neutral. Is it clear to all of you?
Yes.
Please,
Yes, ma'am.
please make a note of all these small things, because you won't remember architecture neutral term. But if I'll tell you how RAM size can be changed, how processor can be changed, how your screen size can be changed, then you can understand what is the meaning of changes in architecture. Okay, so I suggest you to write some key points while we are discussing everything. So number one feature was Java is a simple language. Number two feature was Java is platform independent. And number three feature is Java is architecture neutral. Shall we move forward?
Yes, ma'am.
So the next feature is Java is portable. Okay. Now let's understand this with one example. Suppose Namrata bought one SIM card and she bought BSNL SIM card. Okay, Namrata. Now what happened? While Namrata is using that number, she realized that network is not good in her locality. So what she will do? She will apply for portability. She will change the service operator. Now Namrata bought BSNL SIM card, but now she wants to switch to Airtel. Okay? Airtel is equally worst, at least in my area. So if Namrata changes her operator service from BSNL to Airtel, does she has to change her number also? No. If we change the service provider, we don't have to change our mobile number. Earlier it used to happen, but now it is nothing like that. You can change your service operator without changing your number. So we call that service as portability. Okay. Same applies for Java programming. What happens when we migrate a Java program from one platform to the other platform? For example, I have written a Java program on Windows system, but now I want to execute that complete project on Linux system. Then I don't have to bring any changes in the coding. Okay, the code will remain same. That is called as portable feature of Java. We can do migration of Java programs from one platform to another platform without bringing in any change. Just like the way you change your number, service provider. Okay, the way SIM card portability is there, same feature we are having in Java language also. So we can migrate the Java program from Windows to Linux or Mac to Windows or Unix to Windows without bringing in any changes in the code. This feature is called as portable feature of Java. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. So next we have another important feature of Java, secured. Can you see? Secure. Java programming is very secure. Let's say I have a program test.java. Okay, I am explaining you the secure feature of Java. So you will write one program. Let's say its name is test.java. Please ignore my handwriting. Okay. Now, this is the source code which we save with .java extension. Then what we do? We compile this. When you compile it, what do you get? We get .class file, which is our bytecode. So I will get test.class file. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
So we have written test.java source code, and after compilation, I got test.class file. Now, this bytecode will be handled by JVM, Java Virtual Machine. And later, Java Virtual Machine will convert this bytecode into machine code. That is binary language. Okay? Machine code. And then it will be executed. Okay? So this is the bigger picture of how things move in Java. I will explain this in much detail, but just for the sake of understanding the secure feature of Java, just remember these four things. First, you write the source code with .java extension. Okay, whatever program you are writing, that is called as the source code. Then we have compiled the source code here, and I got this .class file, which is my bytecode. Later, the Java virtual machine will convert this bytecode into machine code, and it will execute the program. We will happily get the output. Okay. Now, how is this making Java a secure programming language? See, this Java virtual machine is there, na? It is having one bytecode verifier. In the Java virtual machine, we have a feature of bytecode verifier. So what happens? The Java virtual machine checks whether the bytecode is generated by a valid compiler or not, whether the bytecode file is properly formatted or not. So Java virtual machine assures a secure environment because we are having a bytecode verifier feature in the Java virtual machine. So JVM reports verify error because of this checking of viruses. And because of this checking, any type of virus is not invited. Okay. So if the viruses are not invited into the system, we can claim that Java is a very secure language. Why it is a secure language? Because we have bytecode verifier present in the Java virtual machine. Then every time the compiler passes on the bytecode file to the Java virtual machine, the Java virtual machine bytecode verifier checks whether the bytecode has been verified by a valid compiler or not, whether the bytecode file is properly formatted or not. So because of this feature, it is a secure environment to program. Can you see the PDF again?
Yes, ma'am.
So if the interviewer asks you why Java programming is a secure language, then you have to say that Java programming language is secure because it has bytecode verifier present in the Java virtual machine. Please note down in your notebooks. Bytecode verifier is present in Java virtual machine. So the Java virtual machine assures secure environment for programming because it will report the verify error, and thus any type of viruses are not welcomed into the system. Is it clear? Java is object-oriented programming language. Very beautiful feature, object-oriented programming language. Okay, so C language, B language, all these were procedural language. But C++ and Java are the languages which deal with objects, classes, and they have all the OOPS features, encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance. All these features are there in this language. That is the reason why it is object-oriented language. Now, once you say this, the next question that comes from interviewer is Java pure object-oriented language? Then what you would say? Suppose I say Ashwini, we can talk about this on phone call. Let's not discuss this in the session.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, let's say Devendra is there. Are you there in the meeting? Devendra. Okay, let's say Devendra secure some marks in the exams and he stood first. Okay, so Devendra stood first. We assume that Devendra stood first. He is the topper. Okay, so when he is the topper, we are not comparing him with anyone, whether he is a class topper, whether he is a regional topper, the CBSE, ICSE board topper, India topper, world topper. We don't know that. We are just saying Devendra is the topper. So if I start comparing, relative comparison comes that Pooja is also there. Pooja secured 90%, Devendra secured 75%. Then who is topper? Pooja or Devendra? Who is the topper? Pooja secured 90%, Devendra secured 75%.
Pooja.
Pooja.
So Pooja is topper. Till now, Devendra was saying that he is the topper of his school, but we were not comparing Devendra with anyone. Now, if I compare Devendra with one girl, Pooja, who is from some other school, when relative comparison comes into picture, we found that Devendra is not topper. He was just bluffing. Okay, so Java is object-oriented language. Okay, Java is object-oriented language when it is not compared with any other language. Like Devendra was a topper, no? So Java is also object-oriented language when it is not compared to anyone. When Devendra is not compared to anyone, Devendra is the topper. If I compare Devendra with Pooja, then Devendra is not the topper. Similarly, when you compare Java language with C++ language, then Java is not an object-oriented language. Why? Because in C++ we were having operator overloading. Okay? Operator overloading feature was there. That feature is not there in Java. Then in C++ pointers were there. We don't have pointers in Java. In Java, we are using int, float, long, double. All these are primitive data types. So if it is pure object-oriented language, these primitive data types should be objects, but they are not objects. They are primitive data types. So we cannot claim that Java is pure object-oriented language. But if it is not compared with anything, then object-oriented. Then Devendra is the topper. Is it clear to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So this, please note down this answer. Very important from the interview room. Is Java pure object-oriented language? So you have to say that Java is pure object-oriented language when it is not compared to any other language. But if compared to other languages, then Java is not a pure object-oriented language because we don't have operator overloading feature, we don't have multiple inheritance feature, and also we are using primitive data types in Java. That makes it not a pure object-oriented language. Do I need to repeat it?
Yes.
Whenever I'm
Yes,
going
ma'am.
to conduct mock interviews, I need the same answer from you. Shall I repeat it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Please note down with red pen. Java is an object-oriented language. Java is an object-oriented language if it's not compared with any other language. Java is an object-oriented language if it is not compared to any other language. Come to the second point. But if we compare Java with any other language like C++, but if we compare Java with other language like C++, then Java is not a pure object-oriented language. Java is not, please underline not. Java is not a pure object-oriented language because we don't have features like operator overloading. We don't have features like operator overloading, comma, multiple inheritance, and we are using primitive data types, which are not objects. Please see the chat box. Very, very important question from interview room. Okay, put 3 stars on this. Definitely everyone will ask you if you are appearing for Java interview. Okay, so we are done with 6 features. Next, we have 7th feature, multi-threaded. Java is a multi-threaded programming language. Can you see this green box? Multi-threaded. Okay, so what is multi-threaded? This is not there in C++. Okay, let me use marker again. Okay, suppose there is a program that I have written and it is having 5,000 LOC. What is LOC? 5,000 lines of code.
Line of codes.
Yes, I have written a program. See, when you will be working with IT companies, you will be having very grand projects to work upon. Okay, now we are doing all these stupid things now, printing hello world, creating a class, all these things, you won't do that. You will be working with projects which will having thousands of lines of codes. Okay, so now I have a program with 5,000 lines of code. One way is we can execute it sequentially, one by one. We can execute all the lines sequentially. And the other way is I figured out that the first 2,500 line of code are independent of the next 2,500 lines of code. So what I will do, I will execute the first 2500 lines of code in a separate process, and I will execute the other 2500 lines of code in a separate process. So which one is the smarter way? Executing 5000 lines of code in sequential way, or executing 2500 in parallel way?
Second.
Parallel.
Yes. So if I execute my program in parallel way, 2500 using one thread and 2500 using one thread, this is executing 5000 lines of code in sequential manner is called as one process. Okay, it is one process. Now if I'm breaking down the lines of code, whatever is independent, okay, it cannot be dependent on each other. If the output of one function is dependent on the second, then we can't execute them parallelly, no. So what I have done, I have decomposed my 5000 lines of code into two parts: 2500 lines of code, 2500 lines of code. They are independent of each other. So this is one process, but two threads. So thread is a sub process. It is a one process having two threads. One thread will be executing the first 2500 lines of code. Second thread will be executing the second set of 2500 lines of code. So we have this feature in Java, and it is called as multi-threading. We call it as multi-threading. This was not there in C++ language. Okay, so the default feature of Java is sequential. Okay, the default nature of Java is to execute sequentially, but we have the provision of implementing multi-threading using thread class, or some interfaces are there which we will study in multi-threading concept. So if the interviewer asks you, by default, if you don't do anything, how the Java program will execute? It will execute sequentially. But if I am interested in implementing multi-threading, then I can do that using some inbuilt classes and interfaces. Clear? We have runnable interface, thread class, all these things are there to do that. But the default nature is sequential. The default nature of student is they won't write anything. But if I keep on repeating, make a note of it, make a note of it, then only you will make a note of it. But what is your default nature? You will keep listening, you won't write anything. That same way, Java, it will do everything sequentially. But if you ask the program to execute in multi-threading, then it will do that. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Everything is getting cleared in one go. Then we have robust feature. What do you understand by robust? Very strong personality. Robust means very strong. So when I say Java program is very robust, that means there is very less chance for a Java program to fail. Okay, there is very less chance of a Java program to fail. That's why it is robust. Mark my words. Java program is robust because it has very less chance to fail. How? Why is it having very less chance to fail? Do you know some scripting languages are there, like HTML is there, no? When you write anything in HTML, does it compiles? Anyone worked on HTML, all those tags?
Yes, sir.
So when you work on HTML, is there any compiler for it?
No.
No, ma'am.
No. No such feature is there. You write whatever you are writing, it will directly give you runtime error. Okay, no compilation, nothing is there. But in Java, you see, we are having compiler feature. Everything can be checked at the time of compilation. So whatever syntax related issues are there, they will be reported at the time of compilation. Okay, you write one Java program, you execute, you compile it. So at the time of compilation, it will tell you all the silly things you have done, semicolon or some case sensitive issue, something it will tell you at the very beginning. So if the compilation process is there, it is reducing your chances of failing. Then we have exception handling. Do you know exception handling feature is there? What it will do? It will help your program to end gracefully. Your program will not, suddenly it won't stop working. It will give some runtime exception and it will terminate. That is graceful termination. So exception handling is there. Automatic garbage collection is there. What is garbage? What is garbage in your home? Garbage in your home is garbage in your home are the things that are not used from a very long time. So you throw them, right? Similarly, in programming, there are some objects, okay? There are some objects which are not being referred for a very long time. So we need to clean that garbage. So automatic garbage collection is there in Java. And it is also platform independent. So even if you write a program and you execute on different platforms, again, the chance of failing will be reduced. Okay, so what things I told you? Automatic garbage collection, exception handling, everything can be checked at the time of compilation, and it is platform independent. So all these features assure that your Java program is very robust in nature. It reduces the chances of a Java program to fail. Do you understand what is the meaning of robust? Robust means very less chance of your Java program to fail because of being compiled on time, because of automatic garbage collection, because of exception handling, and because of being a platform independent language. Are you noting down all these extra things that I'm telling you?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good.
Yes, ma'am.
Very
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Very good. So we are done with 8 features. Let's move on to the 9th feature. So what is the 9th feature? Let's pick this one. Distributed. Java is a distributed programming language. Okay. So what is distributed? That means we can create one Java program and we can run that Java program on different machines. Okay, let's say, do you know Twitter mobile application? You know Twitter app.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
In which language Twitter has been developed? Can you tell me? Twitter has been developed in Java language. Okay. Now, is it possible that for using Twitter only one server is enough?
No.
No. Twitter cannot be handled by a single server now. So many users are there. Billions of users are there. And those billions of users are posting billions of things every second. Okay, everything is happening on everything we are getting to know through Twitter. So one server is not enough. So how many servers we will have? We will be having servers in thousands. Am I right?
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
so if there is some application, let me use a pen. Is it visible to all of you? My dirty handwriting is visible.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you called my writing dirty. Okay, this is one application. Okay, I'm writing app, APP. Now, if let's say this is Twitter application, so we will be having lots of servers. Okay, server 1, server 2. Okay, like that, we will be having thousands of servers. Okay, so Java program is a distributed program. So if you create one application, you can run it on multiple systems. What it has to contain? It has to contain Java virtual machine. So this server will have one Java virtual machine. This one will be having its own Java virtual machine. We can say JVM1, JVM2. and here we will be having our Java program. Okay, so same Java application running on this system also, running on this system also. This is called as distributed. Okay, it has been distributed on different machines. So here there will be one load balancer. Why load balancer is required? Can anybody tell me?
So that the server don't get overload.
Yes. So there will be a load balancer which will route your traffic. If suppose this server is handling a huge traffic, then the load balancer will reroute the traffic to this server. Okay. So why this distributed feature is there? So that we can do load balancing on the servers, or if one system crashes, there will be the other system to help in the scenario of system crash. Okay, so this feature is there in Java. Now, is Java a magic? Is it going to happen on its own? Is it going to become distributed on its own? No, it doesn't work like that. You need to have some APIs, you need to have some classes or methods to make it done. Am I right? So we have RMI. Please see the chat box. We have remote method. One second. Please see the chat box. RMI, remote method invocation, and EJB, enterprise Java Bean. These are some inbuilt, these things give some inbuilt support for Java to be distributed in nature. Okay, so if you are creating a distributed application in Java, we will be using RMI and EJB, remote method invocation, and enterprise Java Bean. Okay, this is it. You need to know this much. That is enough for the interview. Next feature we have is, what is the next feature? Interpreted. Okay, see this red box. Java is an interpreted language. So do you know Java code is compiled also and it is interpreted also? Do you know the difference between compiler and interpreter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So languages usually either they are compiled or they are interpreted. But if the interviewer asks you whether there is a compiler present or there is an interpreter present in Java, you have to say both are present. Okay, Java program is compiled as well as interpreted. So compilation is not there for scripting languages, as I told you. If you are working on HTML and all those, then compilation is not there. But Java is both compiled and interpreted language, such a special language. It is being compiled as well as interpreted. Keep noting down. So compiler will compile the code and it will generate the bytecode. And at the runtime, I showed you that diagram now. At runtime, the Java virtual machine will interpret the bytecode into machine code. Okay. At the runtime, the JVM will convert the bytecode into machine code and it will execute the machine code. So we have compiler at the beginning and later Java virtual machine will be the interpreter. Is it clear to all of you?
Yes.
So you have to note it down that the compilation is done by Java C compiler. Java C compiler will do the compilation and later Java virtual machine will do the interpretation. Next, we have another feature. See this pink box, high performance. Java is very high performance programming language. Give me 1 minute. So let's say I have written one method M. Okay, M is one method and it is having 5,000 lines of code. How many lines of code? 5,000. 5,000 lines are there in this method. Now, do you know recursion? What is recursion?
It
Calling.
call itself.
Calling the function again and again, calling the same function again and again. So definitely if we have written this method with 5,000 lines of code, we are not going to write this method again and again. We have kept this method ready, and every time it is required, what we will do? We will call the method again and again. We will invoke the method again and again. Okay. So what happens is, whenever we call a method, how we call a method? By specifying the name. I call this method for the first time. What it will do? It will read the method, 5,000 lines. It will interpret, and it will execute. Am I correct?
Yes.
Again, I needed this method again. Again, it will read, it will interpret, it will execute. I need this method again. Again, it will read, interpret, and execute. How many times you are calling the method? Every time when it is being called, it is reading, it is interpreting, and it is executing. This read, interpret, execute cycle is repeating. Okay? So reading 5,000 lines of code, then again interpreting 5,000 lines of code, then again executing it is a very big headache. Suppose I call this method for 50 times. Then 50 times you have to do this reading, interpreting, and executing for this 5,000 lines of code. Is it a headache or not? Is it a headache or not?
Yes.
It is a headache. So what is the solution? The solution is we have JIT compiler. What do we have? We have a JIT compiler, that means just-in-time compiler. So just-in-time compiler is also known as hotspot JVM. Please note down. JIT compiler is also known as hotspot JVM, hotspot Java Virtual Machine, because before 1.2 version, we were not having JIT compiler. Okay, Java Virtual Machine was there, and every time I used to call the method, it used to repeat this reading, interpreting, executing. But in 1.2 version, they introduced a hotspot JVM. What is hotspot? See, the JVM will see that, okay, one time this method has been invoked. Okay, second time also this method has been invoked. Third time also this method has been invoked. That means this method is too much in demand. The code written in this method is very much in demand. So this 5,000 lines of code is called as hotspot. I'm sorry, I clicked finished. So what will happen? Those 5,000 lines of code will be considered as hotspot. Okay. So every time that function is called, what it will do? The JVM checks and find it is in demand, whether that method is in demand or not. And JIT compiler is part of Java Virtual Machine. It will identify the hotspot code, and it will convert that hotspot code into machine code. So every time you don't have to repeat that read, interpret, execute, read, interpret, execute. You don't have to do that. The JIT compiler will convert the method into machine code, and it will directly execute it. Okay. So because of the presence of JIT compiler, what is happening? The programming language is becoming very high performing language. Because the JIT compiler, just-in-time compiler, please note down, the just-in-time compiler is identifying the hotspot code, and when it considers any code as hotspot code, it is not repeating the cycle of read, interpret, and execute. It is directly converting that hotspot code into machine code and it is executing. Due to this, Java is a very high performing programming language. Shall I repeat this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you want me to repeat it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me use the marker again. Second. See, now I have kept a white screen. See, I have a method. I have a method which is having 5,000 lines of code. 5,000 lines of code, just an example. Okay. Now, I want to call this method. How you call the method? Like this. So when I call this method, the Java virtual machine will read it, then it will interpret it. Interpret means it will convert to machine language and then it will execute it. Read, interpret, execute. Second time, I call the method again. Again, these 5,000 lines will be read, interpret, executed. I will call the method for the third time. Again, the 5,000 lines will be read, interpreted, and executed. Is it a good option?
No.
No, it's not good. It is degrading the performance of my system. Okay, I am taking too much time in reading the 5,000 lines of code, then interpreting them into machine code, and then executing it. It's a big headache. So what happened after version 1.2? Okay, after version 1.2, something called as Hotspot Java Virtual Machine. Please note down, Hotspot JVM came into picture. Now, what is that Hotspot JVM? Your JIT, just-in-time compiler. So just-in-time compiler is called as Hotspot JVM. Okay, what this Hotspot JVM will do, it will identify the hotspot code. Now it understood that this function, this method is being called so many times. That means the code written in this method is very much in demand. That means this 5,000 lines of code is hotspot. Something which is being accessed for more than 3 times is considered as hotspot by the JVM. And if it is hotspot, it will convert it into machine code for one time and it will be directly executed. Okay, no need of reading, interpreting, and executing many times. Identify the hotspot code and convert it into machine code and execute it. Then the performance of the language will be enhanced. It will become very fast and efficient language. So if a method is called 3 times, the JVM checks and finds it that it is very much in demand. And the JIT compiler, which is the part of your JVM, identifies the hotspot code and converts it into machine code. Okay. So Java is slower compared to C language, compared to C++ language. Java programming is slow programming language. But because of the presence of JIT compiler, it has improved its performance. That's why it is called as high performance language. Now, is it clear to all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we are done with 11 features. Now we have 10 minutes. So we are on time. The last feature, which one is left? Dynamic feature. Okay, see this blue box. Java is a dynamic language. So dynamic language, why we are calling it is because it uses lazy loading. Java uses the concept of lazy loading. So there is one feature called as load on demand feature, and that feature makes Java dynamic. So suppose I have created 3 classes in my Java program, but at any point of time, I am working with only one class. I am accessing the methods or data members of only one class. So in that case, JVM is not going to load the other 2 classes. Are you getting my point? We have created 3 classes in the Java program, and at any point of time, I am using only a single class. So JVM is not going to load the other 2 classes. And this is called as dynamic feature of Java. And this dynamic feature helps in memory management. It saves memory, it saves time, and it makes the programming more efficient. And this feature is also known as lazy loading. So if the question comes, what is lazy loading? L-A-Z-Y, lazy. So lazy loading means whatever number of classes are present in a Java program, the JVM will load only the required class. Whenever a particular class is required, then only JVM is going to load that class. This is called as the dynamic feature of Java. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now look into the slide. Read out all the 12 features and tell me if I should repeat any one feature. Definitely 2 questions are going to come from this particular slide alone. First question, object-oriented. Whether Java is a pure object-oriented language or not. Definite question from the interviewer. Why Java is platform independent? Definite question from the interviewer. Okay, please observe this slide for 1 minute. All of you. Clear? Have you noted down all the buzzwords? Some key points that we discussed during this session, have you noted in your notebooks?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good.
Yes, ma'am.
I hope candidates who are sincere and serious for Capgemini would definitely have noted. So where is Java used? Java is used in desktop applications. It is used in web applications. It is used. What are desktop applications? Desktop applications like this. I am using this Adobe Reader right now. For viewing this content, I am using this Adobe Reader. So this is a desktop application. It does not require internet connection to run. Okay, it is serving my purpose being on my local system. So we can use Java for creating desktop applications, for creating web applications. How we can create web applications? Can you tell me some famous web applications developed in Java language? Anyone heard of any famous application? Today also I mentioned one application.
Twitter.
Twitter. Okay, Twitter mobile application is there. Opera Mini browser is there, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Opera Mini.
Yes, yeah.
Have you heard of Spotify? That Anil Kapoor is there na in the advertisement.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Spotify is also developed in Java language. Okay. Then enterprise applications. See, enterprise application means a software that is used by any organization. See, in earlier days when IRCTC website and application was not there, we used to go to railway stations to book our tickets, and we used to stand in queues, and that railway employee used to ask us all the details. and we used to tell them all the details about the passengers, and they were having some software through which they used to book the tickets. That is enterprise application. Okay, the whole organization, all the railway people are using that application for booking the tickets. That is an enterprise application. Same applies for your banks. You go to SBI for depositing some money. Okay, these days we are using Google Pay and everything, but earlier it was very difficult. We used to go and we used to stand in queues. We fill that form, and the clerk will take the money, that form, and they will do something on a software. Okay, that software is dedicated to that bank. SBI will be having some software, ICICI will be having their own software, Axis Bank will be having their own software. That is enterprise application. Mobile applications, okay, in mobile apps also we are using Java. Embedded systems, like this electronic devices are there, na? Washing machines or microwave oven, all these systems are also using Java. Smart cards, okay, so what are smart cards? Like your ATM cards are there, or we have metro cards. All these cards can also be programmed using Java. I'm not saying all the smart cards have been programmed in Java, but Java is one of the language which can be used for doing the programming on smart cards. Robotics and games. Okay, so these are some applications where we can use Java. Clear?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, see, these are all the applications. If we categorize them in broad categories, then we can say that we can develop standalone application. For example, this Adobe Reader. Adobe Reader is a standalone application. It is not dependent on internet, or it is not dependent on any other software. It is standalone. We can individually use Adobe Reader to serve my purpose. Web application, enterprise application, the way I told you, IRCTC used to, when IRCTC was not there, railway organization were having, they still have their own software, and banks have their own software. If I am working in TechnoServe, TechnoServe will be having their own software. These are called as enterprise application. Enterprise means any organization where some people are working and all those people are using the same common software. And the fourth category is mobile application. Is it clear?
Yes.
So these are some things which you already know during your BTech. Okay, Java editions are there. We have Java Standard Edition, Java Enterprise Edition, Java Micro Edition, and Java FX. So Standard Edition is widely used for creating the desktop applications. Please remember these. Okay, these are the types of applications. So Standard Edition is mostly used for creating standalone applications, or your desktop applications. Then we have Enterprise Edition, which is used for developing web applications in Java. So we will be learning Enterprise Edition because we will be working with web applications. Then there is Micro Edition. So Micro Edition is used for developing mobile applications in Java. All your mobile apps can be developed using Micro Edition. Okay, Android and everything is involved here. Then there is Java FX. So see, suppose you develop one web application. Now you have to make sure that that web application runs good on a tablet. It runs equally well on a mobile phone. It runs on a system. Okay, whatever device you are using, that web application should be able to run on that device. The device should be able to support that web application. So that is the reason why Java FX Edition has been introduced, and it is used to develop rich internet applications. Rich internet applications in the sense we are developing web applications which are compatible with all varieties of devices that we are using. Laptops, your tablets, your mobile phones, everything. This is the comparison between C++ and Java language. Please, all of you, have a look on this. Now you know the features of Java, then you can understand it. C++ is platform dependent, Java is platform independent. C++ used for system programming, Java is mainly used for application programming. C++ supports goto statement, Java doesn't support goto statements. Okay, because goto statements make very messy programs. So Java is not supporting goto. C++ supports multiple inheritance. Java doesn't support multiple inheritance. Supports operator overloading. Java doesn't support operator overloading. C++ supports pointers. Java doesn't support pointers. C++ uses compiler only, but Java uses compiler as well as interpreter. C++ supports both call by value and call by reference, but pointers are not there in Java. So it is understood that there is no call by reference in Java because of lack of pointer support. Who is joining the meeting at this moment? Siddha? Then C++ doesn't have built-in support for threads, but Java is having multi-threading system. C++ supports virtual keyword. Java doesn't support virtual keyword. Okay, so have a look on this slide. Now all the buzzwords are understandable, I think, after today's session. I have highlighted the what is happening, why students are joining now. So I have highlighted some keywords in this slide. Please ensure whether you are able to understand these words or not.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
This is also very important from interview room. Very obvious question from interview room, because Java is like a just after C++, Java got so much fame. So the obvious question is, what new things are there in Java which were not there in C++? So that is why this comparison is very important. Okay, so time is up. It's 6:33. We will continue in the next session. All of you make sure that you post your attendance. Okay, attendance is very important. If you have 75% attendance, 70% attendance, then only these sessions will be helpful for you. So today's session is very important. Okay, don't think that as we have not done any programming, then nothing useful has been completed in today's session. We discussed introduction part, history of Java. We discussed 12 features of Java programming. We discussed applications of Java and the comparison between C++ and Java. All these questions are very important from the point of interviewer. Why? Because if you appear for an interview as a fresher, they will try to play with you in the basics. Okay, after 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, if you switch, then in that case they will ask you very fancy questions. But when you are a final year student and you are appearing for interviews, the interviewer will just play with you in the basics. Okay, what is platform independent? How can you claim that it is platform independent? Tell me, what is .class file? What is bytecode file? How it is being compiled and interpreted? How both things are possible? Are you getting my point? From a fresher point of view, such questions are very important. That is the reason why today's session is very important. Okay, this is it for today's session. Again, we will meet tomorrow 5 p.m.